What if everything we've been told about autoimmunity is wrong? I'm Elizabeth Yarnell. After awakening partially blind one morning in 1999, a doctor told me my multiple sclerosis would put me in a wheelchair within 10 years. I refused to accept that as the end of the story, so I started investigating. Welcome to the Inflammation Investigator, the podcast that uncovers the inflammation lurking underneath your ailments. Because autoimmune and chronic conditions should not be viewed as death knells when they are actually alarm bells. I'm a traditional naturopath and founder of the Inflammation Academy. And in 2 episodes every week, we dig into what conventional medicine might be missing. If you're living with chronic or unexplained symptoms, this investigation is for you. Your body has been trying to tell you something. Let's start listening.
In the last episode, we talked about some of the key lessons that we've been talking about in the first 4 or 5 episodes of this journey. And today we're going to start talking about what is multiple sclerosis and other autoimmune conditions and how we define them. Don't forget, I will be reading, so I won't always be looking at you, but you can always just listen in too. That morning, when I awoke blind in my right eye, my life pivoted into a before and after story, as in the before I got sick era and the after I got sick present. Losing my vision literally overnight was as terrifying as you may imagine. And that January day, I was wandering around my apartment in something of a daze, not sure what to do next. Alternating between my laptop on the couch, where I was attempting to improve the draft of the article that was due that afternoon, and the spot in front of the bathroom mirror, where I searched the surface of my eyeball for whatever was obstructing my eyesight, hoping to find something that could provide an explanation for my condition, such as a piece of cotton or a fuzzball. It was a fruitless search. I was pulled out of my distraction when my dad called. My father is a prominent neurologist, making it one of the great ironies of my life that my dad is a brain and nerve doctor and now I have a serious neurologic disease. What are the odds? I'm having trouble seeing, I confessed when he asked how I was. He immediately went into action and called a colleague, an eye doctor, who agreed to see me right away. The ophthalmologist examined the insides of my eyes with a strong light and then, on the advice of my father, sent me directly to the hospital for an MRI. The imaging center agreed to stay open late so they could run my scans immediately. As you can see, it's just as you suspected. There is indeed VIP treatment if you are a doctor's daughter. By the time I came out of my MRI, my father had put out the call, and my family had arrived. My father, my mother, my stepfather, my stepmother, and my aunt were all crowded into a small radiology reading room. Rows of backlit black and white sheets of film displaying slices of my brain covered 2 walls, reminiscent of scenes from the television show Grey's Anatomy. My father pointed out the white spots on the images and told me they were scars. There were 17 of them, 17 scars on my brain. He squeezed my hand and said gently, "It looks like you have MS." I can only imagine how difficult it must have been for him to say those words to his eldest daughter. Words that he surely knew were foretelling a dismal and uncertain future. Almost immediately, Images of children using wheelchairs in Jerry Lewis telethons went through my head, and I started to panic. Does this mean I'm going to be one of Jerry's kids? No, 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 I remember my father answering, clearly recognizing my reference immediately. That's MD, muscular dystrophy, a genetic disorder. You have to be born with MD. He explained that MS stood for multiple sclerosis, an autoimmune disease that affects the nervous system. He told me that doctors didn't know why MS happens to some people and not others. My head was spinning as much from trying to process this new information as from an overwhelming wave of exhaustion. Later that week, I would learn about the National MS Society, and I would read their estimations of how many Americans were affected by MS at that time. 250,000. Now the number is closer to 1 million. Additionally, I internalized the soul-crushing statistic that 80% of MS patients experience significant disability within 10 years of diagnosis. I became determined to avoid this fate. In my early research, as I mentioned in the last chapter, I learned multiple sclerosis is a relatively newly identified disease of the last 150 years and is defined by exacerbations or flare-ups of symptoms that may include pain, discomfort, or even loss of certain body functions, seemingly without warning or reason. Before MRIs existed, it was only upon autopsy that the characteristic scars or hardened plaques of calcium, called scleroses in medical speak, were visible along the nerves in the brain and or spine. For the first century of recognized existence, diagnosis of multiple sclerosis required experiencing more than one mysterious exacerbation in order to meet the multiple definition. And then scars were often discovered after death during autopsy. Since the 1980s, magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, has been used as a diagnostic tool to identify and locate scar plaques long before the patient death. Decades ago, when I had my first MRI, black and white images were printed on large sheets of plastic film. Today, modern MRI machines can generate full-color, three-dimensional digital images of the body and are advanced enough to be rotated, zoomed in, and explored digitally. And let me tell you, it feels futuristic and trippy to sit with a neurologist and go for a three-dimensional spin through your brain on the monitor. It is an experience eerily reminiscent of watching a miniaturized Dennis Quaid in the 1980s movie Inner Space when he drives his tiny spaceship through the chambers of a human heart. As a remnant of the days before the MRI machine became a standard diagnostic tool for MS, some doctors still conduct a spinal tap to withdraw cerebrospinal fluid and analyze it for the amount of white blood cells, myelin fibers, and the presence of certain antibodies associated with MS. This is not a fun or enjoyable experience for anyone to go through, and you may even continue to leak spinal fluid for some time after the procedure, as I did. If you must undergo this painful procedure, plan on staying prone for several days afterward while you heal. Stay well hydrated and take in lots of electrolytes and minerals. You can find a lot of my recommendations for electrolytes, minerals, and other supplements at shop.elizabethyarnell.com. Be sure to tune in to the next episode when we talk more about multiple sclerosis and the myelin sheaths that surround the nerves that become damaged in this condition. I hope you tune in to that one.
And that's another case filed on the Inflammation Investigator. Remember, every symptom is your body's way of communicating. We just need to learn the language. If today's episode sparked something for you, I want to hear about it. Share your own investigation discoveries with me on social media at Elizabeth Yarnell, or find me at elizabethyarnell.com. Your experience could be exactly what another listener needs to hear. And make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. And here's the thing about investigations. They work best when you're not going it alone. If this podcast is helping you uncover the answers you've been searching for, please like, rate, subscribe, and review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. As a new podcast, these actions mean more than you know. Want to dive deeper into your own inflammation investigation? Head over to inflammationinvestigator.com, where you can take my free inflammation quiz to uncover which hidden triggers might be affecting your health. Until next time, this is Elizabeth Yarnell, your inflammation investigator, reminding you that the solutions to your health issues are out there. Let's find them together.